corridors. Okay. All right. Let's take this discussion forward. We have, two guests also joining in. Aseem, Dhru, who's the managing director and, CEO at SBFC Finance. And of course, he's no stranger to the Indian financial services world. He's seen it from close quarters for many, many years. And also we have Tamal, Bandhopadhyay, consulting editor at Business Standard, who's also seen the ins and outs of the RBI for many decades now. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. First question, Tamal, to you. So, people from North Block eventually making their way to Mint Street, it's not new at all. How do you see this appointment, Mr. Malhotra, coming in as he does when there are high expectations from the RBI to start cutting interest rates and boosting the economy?
No, it's absolutely in sync with the tradition. I mean, there are exceptions, but primarily it's the North Block that at times, directly somebody who is in charge of certain things come directly, like Subbarao's case, finance secretary, or the current case. And sometimes like Dr. Jalan or Dr. Reddy, who had been there and coming there. So that's the thing. There is no surprise at all. But the way the things have been done, that's a bit surprise, because Reserve Bank of India governor is something which is extremely critical, not only now, but always for Indian economy. So I think it would have been planned a little better, and there is this kind of suspense, so much of drama and so much of speculation. That's probably not the right way of doing it. So that's the only part. Otherwise, well, Tamal, it's the tradition. There is. I don't think the government, particularly in the past with one particular governor, they did not, which was an outsider meaning non-IS. I would say even two, they were not very happy. So they have come back. But just one point I want to make, what Latha mentioned is this. The perception of a North Block person getting into Mint Road is like Trojan horse. But that perception is not correct at all. Whenever somebody comes to the Reserve Bank of India, the person becomes the RBI person, RBI governor. So RBI independence is so critical, and always the person at the helm is aware of that. So don't think that because of North Block a person has come and everything the government wants, it will be done. That has never been done historically.
No, absolutely. I think central bankers take their position with a lot of responsibility and pride in India and around the world, right? We've seen the same debate play out with the appointment of Mr. Trump and, what happens to the Fed chief there. But it's the same situation that, they act as independent men and women.
I think, there is a lot of unhappiness, as Tamal said, in terms of the manner in which, the nth minute. Tamal, I'm on the government side on this. I think it was done with a lot of thought, and it was a very gracious act. My sense is they did not want to announce that Shaktikanta will not be governor when he is presenting the policy. I mean, there is a little bit of dilution of his authority when he says RBI will ensure that inflation comes down to 4.2 next quarter or the quarter after. He is still full-fledged governor, and they want to announce the next man after he has passed his policy. I thought it was a gracious act. And for me, the fact that they did not announce till the day of the policy confirmed to me the guess that he is not governor. Because if he is governor, they would have announced earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
And to be fair, one of my sources, when I asked him like 8 weeks back, what is this? It's like, we're just about 8 weeks to go and you're not telling us. And he said, you will know on December 9th.
Yeah.
So I think that man was in the know. But anyway, I want Aseem Dhru to answer something else which the market and investors are terribly worried about. There was a big pushback from DFS and generally the government for RBI's housekeeping activities, banking regulation activities. Tamal well knows that, the expected loss provisions, the extra provisions for infrastructure, the liquidity cover ratio. Lots of new rules are sitting there. And obviously, PSU banks are telling the government, give us more time. Do you think, Aseem, that now with the man coming from Mint Street, these could be, banks could get more time and these could be pushed back?
First, I think we should acknowledge, with a standing ovation, the way in which the governor has ended his term. And, and as the new governor walks in into the pitch, the realities are a little different from what the previous governor had. We are now faced with a slightly slowing economy and inflation, which is still persistent. Now, in terms of regulations, See, regulations is every governor has had focus on a particular activity that was considered critical by the governor. So whether Raghuram Rajan focused on cleanup of banks' balance sheets on the wholesale side, and Mr. Das has focused on two main things. One is cleanup of the balance sheets on all sides, not just wholesale, but the retail side as well as focus on customer fairness code, which was not what the earlier focus was. So to that extent, there's a balancing that has been attempted between the two. And as far as a lot of these ECL and provisions and those goes, it was always the view to move the entire banking system to index. It was just that because nationalized banks wanted more time, they said that NBFC should move on this, while public sector banks and private sector banks will continue. So there, you cannot have a system working on two different ways of reporting of the same business. So eventually, the move to index is a given. Enough time has been given. And I think that it's very likely that the policy will be carried through.
Okay. On the same lines, Mr. Dhru, something that Governor Das will be remembered for is the way he called a spade a spade. He didn't care which bank it was, who was the promoter, how big the entity was. But if there were deficiencies in service or whether in compliance, we all know with Kotak Mahindra Bank, with Paytm, with so many other institutions, IIFL, on some of the gold financiers as well, the actions were stringent. They were extremely precise. So was the communication. I mean, we got used to the era of very clear, long press releases detailing why someone has been stopped from issuing more cards or why someone cannot onboard more customers through the digital route. On some of these fronts, do you think there will be continuity? Or could there be a slightly different approach, new man bringing in his own approach? What would you expect on the compliance part and the other regulatory issues?
What this governor has brought about a change in overall way in which communication has happened to the industry at large is that the earlier governors used to be a lot more cryptic, a lot more private, and not so expansive in terms of laying out their thoughts. The governor has realized two things. One is that the people have taken penalty as a cost of doing business. That's what's happened in the US as well. And therefore, the instruction is very clear that it's a one strike out. You either follow the law or you'll be called out. So, and if you take an analogy, in a class, you don't mind a strict teacher as long as the teacher is fair. You actually protest to unfairness of teachers, or when you think that you have been singled out while others, bigger guys, have got away with it, which has always been the complaint that we have in a lot of other things in the Indian economy. What this governor has ensured is that nobody has any chance of complaining that they have been singled out because the law has been applied equally to large players as well as small, to foreign players as well as public sector as well as private sector, to banks as well as NBFCs. Every governor has a slightly different style, so I'm sure that it will not be exactly the same way. Some fresh thinking, will definitely evolve both at the MPC level as well as in the way communication happens. But largely in today's day and age of social media, if you are not really out there putting your views up there, you are then opening the field for speculation. So in a way, I hope that the same level of communication is maintained with industry concerned.
Okay. Tamal, I wanted to get back to that pet theme. Patra not there after Jan. New members, new captain and vice captain, as Surabhi put it. And, the first policy is normally seen as from the shadows of finance ministry. Then he becomes an RBI man. So just your thought, will he have a problem with Patra going away? And, how is he likely to tackle the immediate problem of slowing growth and rising inflation?
Yeah, Latha, you are exactly on the ball. But before that, I just want to highlight one thing. If you look at the past few governors, when they came and right now, I think things are comparatively benign compared with that. Like say, Subbarao came and that within a week we had seen the Lehman crisis. After that, Raghuram Rajan tapered tantrum and rupee had a free fall. Next, Raghuram Rajan's successor had this demonetization. Shaktikanta Das, during his tenure, had to face COVID and multiple other things. So right now, the growth inflation dynamics and rupee under pressure, but that's a part of life. I don't think there's any huge, massive crisis is looming over India, which Dr. Rajan or Subbarao, even Urjit Patel, they had a much tougher time. And in the 90s, Dr. Jalan. So we don't see that kind of. Yes, we are talking about geopolitics. We are talking about what's happening, Ukraine. You were talking about Trump, etc. But still, we have pretty, barring the second quarter of the current fiscal, we have growth on firm footing. We have inflation, which is being tackled with extreme care. And we have pretty large foreign exchange reserve. So I don't think it's a very tough time as such. Having said that, 5 of the 6 members of MPC will be new in the February meeting, except for one Reserve Bank of India person. 3 MPC members from outside, which for them, December meeting was the first meeting, and Michael Patra and Governor Das would be away. So yes, that's the thing. I mean, how do you? But whatever I heard, Mr. Malhotra is very sharp. His understanding is pretty fine. He is not new to the financial sector. Bankers who had seen him in the DFS as a DFS secretary said that he's cool. He's very sharp with numbers. Apart from his other attributes, like he understands technology and all. But 5 new members at MPC, that's a tough call. So it will be now, we have to wait and watch who replaces Patra. Now, will Patra will get yet another term? I don't think it has ever happened that when you had applied, put up the ad and asked for applications for the job, you reverse it and the person continues.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Take that point entirely.
So we'll definitely get a new RBI deputy governor. So will they go for an economist?
Right.
That's what. Or that's the point. I think ideally we should have an economist at that point. Right.
All right, we take that point, Tamal. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Aseem. Thank you, Latha, for taking us through that conversation as well. As Aseem pointed out, we need to celebrate the great tenure of Shaktikanta Das and at the same time wish the best to the new governor as well. Tune into CNBC TV 18 for the governor's last